Today we are going to dive into one of the most important models in all of macroeconomics, the ISLM model. But we will not just look at the static graph. We will break down a much more interesting process, exactly how the economy returns to equilibrium when it gets pushed off the equilibrium point. If you are a bit lost on what ISLM is or why it matters, by the end of this lesson you will not only understand the graph, you will see how the entire mechanism works, step by step. Ready? Let's start. Here is the central puzzle. Imagine two markets running side by side. On one side, the goods market, everything we produce, sell, and buy in the real economy. On the other side, the money market, where the supply of money and the demand for money interact to set the interest rate. Each market, on its own, would tell us a different signal about where the economy should be. One pulls one way, the other pulls the other way. So where does the actual economy end up? That is exactly the puzzle the ISLM model is built to solve. Understanding the answer is the key to understanding macroeconomic stability, and it is the foundation of all monetary and fiscal policy analysis. Before we talk about how the system corrects itself, we need to understand what equilibrium looks like in the first place. So let's get familiar with the equilibrium point in the ISLM world. Look at point A in the graph. Just imagine this is the sweet spot of the economy, a kind of magnet that always attracts the system back toward it. At point A, the combination of the interest rate and national income is exactly right. Both markets are simultaneously satisfied. The producers in the goods market have no reason to change their output. The bond market and money market both clear. Everybody is happy. This is the only place where the IS curve and the LM curve intersect, and it is the unique macroeconomic equilibrium. Now for the interesting part. What happens if we push the economy away from point A? Let's start with a scenario where the interest rate is suddenly pushed higher than it should be. Imagine the interest rate is now at some level R1 above the equilibrium rate. This is no longer the equilibrium. Clearly, the system is out of balance. The question is, how does it get back? Here is where the conflict between the two markets becomes visible. The high interest rate R1 sends two strong signals, one from each curve. In the goods market, the IS curve, a high interest rate means borrowing is expensive. Companies think twice about investment. Households cut back on durable goods. Real production slows down. So the IS curve tells us that at interest rate R1, the implied national income should be Y2, a lower level of output. Meanwhile, in the money market, the LM curve, a high interest rate R1 would normally only occur if the economy were running hot, with output at a higher level, Y1. Same interest rate, two completely different implied output levels. Strange, right? The economy cannot literally be at both Y1 and Y2 at the same time. So which side wins? The answer is, in the short run, the goods market wins. The economy will actually operate at the lower output level, Y2. Why? Because we cannot produce output out of thin air. The output of the economy is determined by real production. Firms hire workers, buy materials, run factories. They produce what is profitable to produce at the prevailing interest rate. If the interest rate is high, real investment is low, and output is constrained to Y2. The money market's prediction of Y1 was just a hypothetical. What would have justified an interest rate this high? The reality on the ground is determined by real production. Now we arrive at the most beautiful part of the model, the automatic correction mechanism. Once the economy is at Y2, the money market becomes inconsistent. At an actual income level of Y2, the demand for money is lower than what would be needed to justify an interest rate of R1. People simply do not need to hold that much money to support their lower transactions. So there is excess supply of money in the money market. Like any other market, when supply exceeds demand, the price drops. The price of money is the interest rate. So the interest rate starts to fall. Now watch the domino effect. As the interest rate falls, investment in the goods market picks up again. Businesses see cheaper borrowing and start expanding. Production grows. Output increases from Y2 back toward equilibrium. But as output rises, the demand for money also rises again, partially offsetting the rate drop. Step by step, both curves are simultaneously moving toward their equilibrium for each new value. The trajectory traces a diagonal path on the graph, interest rate falling while output rises, until both meet again at point A. The economy converges automatically. No central bank intervention required. The internal mechanics of the two markets do the work. The exact same logic runs in reverse if the rate starts below equilibrium. Suppose the interest rate is pushed too low. Now borrowing is cheap. Businesses are very excited to invest. Output expands. The economy runs hot, with Y at a high level. But now all that activity needs more money for transactions. Demand for money rockets up. With supply fixed, the price of money, the interest rate, rises. As the rate rises, investment becomes less attractive, output slows, and the economy is pulled back to point A from the other side. Whether we start above or below, the magnet always pulls back to the unique equilibrium. When we look from both sides, the conclusion is striking. There is a kind of invisible hand at work in the ISLM model, a powerful internal machine that continuously pulls the economy back toward its equilibrium. Cool, isn't it? The two curves don't just describe a state. They describe a dialogue. The activity in the goods market, the output, affects the amount of money needed. The need for money changes the interest rate. The new interest rate then affects investment decisions in the goods market, which changes output again. This cycle becomes an automatic balancing engine for the entire economy. This is why the ISLM model is so powerful. It tells us that the macroeconomy is self-stabilizing in the short run. It also tells us exactly how policy can shift the equilibrium itself. A fiscal expansion, for example, the government increases spending, shifts the IS curve to the right. The new intersection is at a higher income and a higher interest rate. A monetary expansion, the central bank increases the money supply, shifts the LM curve to the right. The new intersection is at a higher income and a lower interest rate. Two different policies, two different ways of moving the economy. The model gives you the framework to predict the effect of each. But of course, the next big question is, what causes the economy to leave point A in the first place? Common culprits include government policy changes, sudden bursts of business optimism or pessimism, financial market panics, and external shocks like oil prices or wars. Understanding those triggers is the next step in really mastering the ISLM model. And that is the topic of our next lessons on fiscal and monetary policy shifts. There are limits, of course. The ISLM model assumes prices are sticky in the short run, which is a reasonable approximation for the next few quarters, but breaks down in the long run, where prices fully adjust. It also assumes a closed economy in its simplest form. Open economy extensions add the Mundell-Fleming overlay for exchange rates and capital flows, which we will cover in a future lesson. And it does not directly capture expectations or financial sector dynamics, which is why modern new Keynesian models extend ISLM with additional structure. But for an undergraduate or first-year graduate student, ISLM remains the gateway to thinking about macro policy properly. Every time you see a news article saying the Federal Reserve raised interest rates today or the government announced a stimulus package, what you are really watching is IS or LM shifting on a graph and the equilibrium moving accordingly. The political vocabulary changes. The underlying mechanics, in this model, do not. A quick recap. The goods market is summarized by the IS curve, combinations of output and interest rate where the real economy is in equilibrium. The money market is summarized by the LM curve, combinations where the money market clears. The two curves intersect at exactly one point, the unique macroeconomic equilibrium. When the economy is pushed off that point, the goods market sets actual output in the short run, and the money market then adjusts the interest rate, pulling the system back toward equilibrium. Policy interventions shift one curve or the other, moving the equilibrium itself. That is the whole machine. So next time you read about a central bank decision, a government stimulus, or a sudden economic shock, do not just take the headline at face value. Try to draw the ISLM diagram in your head. Identify which curve is shifting. Find the new intersection. Predict what will happen to output and interest rates. With practice, this becomes second nature, and it is one of the most useful mental tools an economist can have. Now you have the framework. Use it the next time the news mentions monetary or fiscal policy. You will see the story behind the story.